But when I moved a bit to get a better look at the person, clearly they reacted to me and froze. I could feel my chest pounding, and I woke my friend up saying, "Hey, someone's here." A few years ago, I was at a friend's house and we were watching a movie. My friend starts telling me about how she would see a young girl outside sometimes, and of course, I'm watching outside the window, waiting for something to happen. Nothing does, and later we both feel like we're being watched. While walking down the hallway, we hear footsteps, like someone's following us. We kinda laugh it off, like we're being paranoid, saying it's the wind or an echo, excuses like that. My friend then suddenly stops and looks around. "Did you hear that?" Of course, I didn't hear anything, so I stopped to listen too. Then I hear a faint laugh, almost like a child. After that, I go to the bathroom, alone and reluctantly, and while I'm washing my hands, the shower curtain starts moving, and I decide to not be stupid and just nope out of there. At this point, we're both freaked out, so we decide to just wait outside until her mom comes home. My father passed away a couple years ago. One item that he always said he wanted me to have was a shotgun, which had originally belonged to his grandfather. For years, he had this shotgun stashed away in the attic. After he passed, I had gone looking for it, only to find that it wasn't there anymore. A few months later, I had a dream in which I was talking to him, and I asked where he had put the shotgun. In my dream, he told me that it was in the closet of the spare bedroom. So, I called my mom and had her check, and sure enough, that's where it was. Now, it's completely possible that my father had told me that that's where the shotgun was when he was alive, and that the dream was little more than a memory. But I certainly don't recall that being the case. The scariest moment of my life happened while me and my friend were camping in eastern Canada as teenagers. We decided to sleep in an old, abandoned camper we found deep in a large forest that was near our town. The camper had been there so long that small trees had started to grow around it. We had stumbled across it when we were exploring a few months ago and thought it would be cool and maybe brave to sleep there for a night. So, one weekend, we did it. We arrived after dark because we had gotten lost trying to find the camper. We had a really low-powered flashlight, so it made it even more difficult. Once we finally found it, we opened up the rusty door and stepped in. The sounds inside the camper were shrill and echoey. There were typical camper things strewn about: cups, empty cans, swollen pulp fiction novels. We set everything up at one end of the camper where the bed area used to be. At this point, all the cushions that had originally been there had rotted away to almost nothing. A long hallway stretched almost the entire length of the camper, letting us see basically end to end. It was a miserable night. There were several rats living in there. I saw them staring at us from a chewed part of the ceiling. When the wind would blow outside, the camper would shriek and groan. We even thought that we heard a bear outside too, walking around. Still, we feigned bravery and acted like we were having a good time, but really, we were on edge. At some point, I woke up from an uncomfortable sleep. I sat up to adjust myself when I noticed some movement out of the corner of my eye. At the other end of the camper, there was a small window, and as I looked at it, I saw the silhouette of a man. He was clearly staring straight at me from outside. At first I thought maybe it was a weird-shaped tree outside or something, but when I moved a bit to get a better look at the person, clearly they reacted to me and froze. I could feel my chest pounding, and I woke my friend up saying, "Hey, someone's here." He didn't get up at first, and I kept whispering to him over and over. I didn't take my eyes off whoever this was outside the whole time. Eventually my friend woke up, and I nodded towards the window. He saw him too. We whispered frantically about who it could be or why they were staring at us, and for the next 10 minutes, no joke, we stared him down. The longer we stared at this guy, the more frightened we got. Occasionally he would move, but he always kept his eyes locked on us. Eventually, I got brave enough and shouted at him, "Hey!" But there was no reaction. He didn't move, didn't take his eyes off us. And then my friend, who was braver than me, decided to shine his flashlight at him. As soon as we did, we realized our horrible mistake. It wasn't a window after all. It was actually the other side of the camper. And guess what? It was actually just a mirror. We had been staring ourselves down the entire time from the very start. Completely idiotic, I know. Still, it was the most fearful, relieving, and funny moment of my entire life. Closest thing to paranormal I've ever seen. Alright, one more for you. This one's called Alone in the Dark. About 10 years ago, before I moved away from Grand Rapids, I used to live in a mansion that was converted into apartments. This isn't terribly unusual in my area. We have a rather large historic district that's about half rentals. Anyways, the house itself was simply amazing. It's a sprawling Italianette built in 1864 with a widow's walk at the top. In total, there's 32 apartments in the building, mostly studios and one-bedrooms. I had heard stories about the house being haunted from many of the tenants, typically ranging from cat chasing an invisible thing above the fireplace to full-scale apparitions. The latter, witnessed by a professor from our art school, involved him walking through the foyer to see a dark woman glide down the stairs and through the wall on the landing between the first and second floor. We later found out, through a few visits to our historical society, that before the place was converted to apartments in the 1920s, the wall that the woman went through was an entryway to the dressing room/parlor of the main bedroom. We always just assumed it was the original lady of the house, Miss Morris. She actually has a rather sad story, so we've come to suspect that maybe that's why her spirit's grounded. Over the years, I've actually lived in several of the units here, and I've actually seen my fair share of the ghosts. They were all pretty terrifying, but nothing compares to the first one. My apartment's set up a little strange. When you first open the door, there's a long hallway that leads to my living room. Through the living room, you can enter my bedroom, and through my bedroom, you find the outer bathroom, which is just a sink. But then you go through that bathroom into the inner bathroom, which is where there's a toilet and a bathtub. This inner bathroom didn't have a light switch. It did have a light, but you had to screw it in to turn it on. When you were done, you just unscrew it a little bit and it turns the light off. Anyways, one afternoon I was taking a shower and I heard someone walking down my hallway. I thought that maybe my boyfriend had forgotten something and came home from work. The footsteps were slow and heavy, and they went through the living room and into my bedroom. Now I was getting a little mad. I like to keep my room private, and here he was walking around it. And then he came to the outer bathroom, and finally into the inner bathroom. "Babe?" I called out. No response. Just as I was about to peek around the shower curtain, the light went out. Now, I'm standing there soaking wet in a pitch black room as there's no windows in the interior of the building, and I realized that this wasn't my boyfriend. I swear, I've never been so terrified in my life. I didn't dare call out again, as I was too afraid of what would answer. After standing there for a minute with my eyes shut, I got out of the shower and immediately out of that room. I convinced myself that whatever it was had left. I went back into the interior bathroom, and the light bulb was completely screwed out of its socket. I eventually convinced myself that someone had come into the apartment. I must have left the door unlocked and a friend came in or something, but the front door was bolted tight and chained. And this was the only time that something physical happened to me that I just couldn't explain. Anyways, I've heard of plenty of strange things, seen a lot of shadows and images out of the corner of my eyes. And yes, my cat does like to freak out over invisible things like all other house cats do. But it was the only time that I had physical proof that something was there with me. Plus, we finally had proof of something we suspected all along, that there was more than one ghost in that house. Those footsteps certainly didn't belong to no lady, living or otherwise. Hey guys, Scary Stories here. I hope you're doing well. What did you think of those? Have you ever decided to go camping in something abandoned before? Kind of reminds me of that H.P. Lovecraft story where the guy sleeps at that cannibal's cottage or something like that. I don't know. Anyways, I hope you are doing well. And I hope you're taking care of yourself. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you very much. I really do appreciate you. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you disliked it, give it a dislike. And if you happen to see another video in the recommended of mine, maybe give that one a click. Really helps the algorithm out. But yeah, I'll cut it there for now. And I'll see you in the next one. I just dropped my phone. Bye for now.